House will stand at ease until 10:15. The House will stand at ease until 10:15.
The hour of convening having arrived, all members of this House will please report to the floor and take your seats. All members will report to the floor and take seats. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell? All members will report to the floor of the House. We are going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. Today is Crossover Eve. We got a busy day today. We will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 55th House District, Representative Marie Metz. Representative Metz.
Good morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the speaker for giving me this opportunity to introduce a special person from my district, District 55. He is the Reverend Dr. William Edward Flippin, Jr., the senior pastor of Emmanuel Lutheran Church on Cascade Road here in Atlanta. He was born in Nashville, Tennessee. However, his formative years and training were developed and nurtured here in Atlanta. He is a proud graduate of Morehouse College, where he majored in history and minored in religion. In 1999, Reverend Flippin was selected to travel to Cote d'Ivoire in West Africa as a Mickey Leland intern for World Hunger and Peace. This experience was momentous. He realized then that hunger within would shape his seminary and training studies. In 2002, Reverend Flippin graduated from the Interdenominational Theological Center, Morehouse School of Religion, and he received his we call it Master of Divinity degree, with concentration being in church history from Emory University, Candler School of Theology, and he also received the Master's of Theology from the Lutheran School of Theology in Chicago. Dr. Flippin has a very impressive resume, and it's long, but I want to conclude by saying that, oh, by the way, he is also a member of the Martin Luther King Jr. Board of Preachers and Laity at Morehouse College. He serves on the Lutheran World Federation Church Council and is the co-chair for advocacy and a public voice for 75 million Lutherans worldwide. He is a proud father, and his daughter, Shamel Imaner, he and his wife, very proud of her. And I will end by saying that Reverend Flippin is an ecumenist. He has served both churches, the first African American church. He is an activist, he's a bridge builder, and he is very much involved with the Lutheran World Federation, serving as the co-chair for advocacy and public voice. It gives me great pleasure in introducing one of my favorites from my district, Reverend Flippin. Will we greet Reverend Flippin with a warm thank you?
Thank you. So kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, staff members and guests, it is an honor and privilege to join you as chaplain on this day. I want to especially thank my representative, Marie Metz, for this invitation. She represents our district well, and we are so proud of her. Well, I realize, being a liturgical nerd, it's not a liturgical day today, but it is a special day. This is a day, Mardi Gras. But also we are on the eve of crossover day. But one of the things that I just want to highlight comes from the Bible, and it's about the tribe of Issachar, a tribe which had understanding of the times to know what to do. David grew continually stronger, and the number of defectors increased because David reached out to unify the nation. And the more he united soldiers behind him, the closer he came to achieving his call and his purpose. So it is with us. The more united we become as those in the General Assembly, the more people we reach in the state of Georgia. A united house, literally, will always touch more people than a divided edifice. Few people, speaking as a clergy person, want to attend a divisive church. After all, who wants to be around people who are complaining, grumbling, griping, and sowing seeds of discord through rumor and false accusation? But an institution that is unified, standing together around the commission of a creator, will bear testimony as people of faith committed to bringing and bearing strong realities for the state of Georgia and beyond. The Bible says we have the same spirit of faith according to what is written, and therefore I have spoken, and we also believe, and therefore speak. Be not therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me as a prisoner, but thou partaker of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of God. One of the things that is beautiful that takes place in the General Assembly is that we plan and have strategic plans. We are getting ready for the 2020 census, but we all know that despite our plans, despite great strategies, that we can never predict what can take place in the state of Georgia and beyond. Someone says, if you want God to laugh, tell God your plans. And I said, what should I challenge the greatest state and the greatest legislators for? It was a hard task. And what came to me is this. Just as the tribe of Issachar, our challenge is to be relevant for our times. We must be relevant. As the tribe of Issachar, we are told, had an understanding of the times to know what to do. David had become king, and each tribe of Israel bore gifts in this coronation. But the Bible says that Issachar was one that got David's attention. They were not the biggest, they were not the brightest, but they were the most relevant. In the institution that I'm most familiar with is the church. Old, young children, nothing more than 19th century Sunday school pablum. We let them color pictures of men and women in bathrobes herding sheep when they are seeing every day are children cruising the streets in luxury cars, firing automatic weapons at each other. How can we be relevant and a voice for this generation? How can we be like the tribe of Issachar? The tribe of Issachar, they had many servants. They worked for wages and lived a comfortable life. And if we understand the times, God will restore us in this appointed time and this appointed place. When we choose to align our lives with the appointed times of God, we enter into a cycle of blessings. We enter into a time of harvest. We enter into a time of reconciliation. We enter into a time of transparency. And we enter into a time, just as Mardi Gras, of rejuvenation. As Georgians, proud Georgians, the greatest state undoubtedly in the Union, I am one of them. Let us challenge ourselves to be like the tribe of Issachar and believe for these unique times and beyond. Let us pray. Let's now stand. O God of new beginnings in the days ahead, there will be opportunities to give our energies to the cause of peace. There will be chances and opportunities to show love of neighbor. There will be occasions to demonstrate kindness and thoughtfulness. Open us to good changes, eternal God, benevolent creator, the transcendent force that allows us as a collaborative group of elected members to make decisions that will serve those who are part of this community, this nation, and global marketplace. Lord, we thank you for hearing the cries of your people and being our advocate. We ask that you disturb us as elected officials to be relevant for the times as the tribe of Issachar. Disturb us, gracious God, to redevelop this great state, to find innovative ways to reclaim abandoned and discarded communities, that they will become vibrant communities of social change, embracing justice for all. Disturb us, Lord, when our dreams have come true because we dream too little, when we arrive safely because we sail too close to the shore. Disturb us, Lord, to dare more boldly, to venture on wider seas where storms will show the transcendent force mastery. Disturb us, Lord, to lose sight of land and follow the vision of this great state, that we shall find the stars. We ask you to push back the horizons of our hopes and to push us in the future in strength, in courage, hope, and in love. In God's name, our Creator, we pray. Amen. Let us now pledge our allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits have read the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, 159 moves following me establishes the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 557 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, a bill to be titled Act to amend the Act creating a new Board of Education of Grady County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 558 by Representative Jones, the 25th, Stovall, the 74th, Cantrell of the 22nd, and Gamble of the 15th. Bill being titled Act to amend Code Section 2081 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to definitions relative to state charter schools.
Education.
House Bill 559 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, Tankersley, the 160th, Petria, the 166th. Bill being titled Act to create the Bryan County Public Facilities Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 560 by Representative Stevens, the 164th. Bill being titled Act to amend Code Section 40.26, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to income tax credit for film.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 561 by Representative Stevens, the 164th. Bill being titled an act to authorize the city of Richmond Hill to exercise all the redevelopment and other powers.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 562 by Representative Dickey, the 140th, Knight of the 130th, Perkle the 155th, Nixon the 169th. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 3, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to scholarships.
Higher Education.
House Bill 563 by Representative Carter, the 92nd, Jones the 91st, Bennett the 94th, Kendrick the 93rd, Stevenson the 90th, and others. Bill being titled an act to authorize the governing authority of the city of Stonecrest to levy an excise tax.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 564 by Representative Administration of the 104th, McLeod of the 105th, McLean of the 100th, Bennett of the 94th, Smiley 135th. Bill be titled an act to amend an act to provide for the composition number of state house districts.
Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment.
House Bill 565 by Representative Jones, the 167th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to fish.
Game, Fish, and Parks.
House Bill 566 by Representative Jones, the 167th. Bill be titled act to amend Chapter 14 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to open and public meetings.
Governmental Affairs.
House Resolution 416 by Representative Hughley of the 136th, Alexander the 66th, Dreyer the 59th, Howard of the 124th. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Georgia County Boards of Elections and Registration.
Governmental Affairs.
House Resolution 421 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th, Jones the 47th, Cooper the 43rd, Oliver the 82nd, and Dickey the 140th. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Infant and Toddler Social and Emotional Health.
Health and Human Services.
That completes first readers. Senate Bill 31 by Senator Redd of the 33rd, Kilpatrick the 32nd, Jackson the 2nd. Bill being titled Act to amend Chapter 1 and Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding law enforcement officers.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 60 by Senator Martin of the 9th, Huffstetler the 52nd, Albers the 56th, Miller the 49th, Kennedy the 18th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Part 15, Article 6 of Chapter 2, Title 20, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Quality Basic Education Act.
Education.
Senate Bill 83 by Senator Mullis the 53rd, Miller the 49th, Dugan the 30th, Albers the 56th, Gooch the 51st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2, Title 20, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to competencies and core curriculum.
Education.
Senate Bill 100 by Senator Martin of the 9th, Jones the 22nd, Albers the 56th, Brass the 28th, Watson the 1st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Part 1A of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 46, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to telephone system for the physically impaired.
Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications.
Senate Bill 117 by Senator Black of the 8th, Robertson the 29th, and Anderson the 43rd. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 20, Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions of public retirement systems standards law.
Retirement.
Senate Bill 119 by Senator Albers the 56th, Huffstetler the 52nd, Cowser the 46th, Dugan the 30th, Gooch the 51st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 28, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to fiscal bills generally.
Ways and Means.
Senate Bill 140 by Senators Harbison of the 15th, Karinchak of the 48th, and Burke of the 11th. Bill being entitled Act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 13 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the World War I Centennial Commission.
Defense and Veterans Affairs.
Senate Bill 142 by Senator Walker of the 20th, Mullis the 53rd, Jones the 25th, Jackson the 2nd, Miller the 49th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 24, Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to insurance.
Insurance.
Senate Bill 153 by Senator Harper the 7th, Mullis the 53rd, Henson the 41st, Black of the 8th, Anderson the 24th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to law enforcement officers.
Regulated Industries.
Senate Bill 157 by Senator Kennedy the 18th, Stone of the 23rd, Ligon of the 3rd, Miller of the 49th, Hill of the 4th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to accounting for public funds.
Banks and Banking.
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Kirk of the 13th, Burke of the 11th, Walker of the 20th, Huffstetler of the 52nd, Hunterman of the 45th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 26 of Title 43, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to nurses.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 170 by Senator Thompson of the 14th, Dugan of the 30th, Mullis of the 53rd, Beach of the 21st, Gooch of the 51st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3, Title 50, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to state and other flags.
Special Rules.
Senate Bill 191 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th, Ligon of the 3rd, Cowser of the 46th, Alvarez of the 56th, Stone of the 23rd, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Title 15, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to courts.
Retirement.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 555 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th, Ridley of the 6th, a bill relating to warrants for arrest. House Bill 556 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, Parsons of the 44th, Dollar of the 45th, and Williamson of the 115th, a bill relating to public utilities and public transportation. Senate Bill 37 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd, Kennedy of the 18th, and Jordan of the 6th, a bill relating to statute of fraud. Senate Bill 97 by Senator Stone of the 23rd and Anderson of the 24th, a bill relating to self-service storage facilities. Senate Bill 120 by Senator Alberts of the 56th, Huffstetler of the 52nd, Cowsworth of the 46th, Duggan of the 30th, Gooch of the 51st, and others, a bill relating to fiscal bills. Senate Bill 133 by Senator Harbin of the 16th, Jones of the 25th, Walker of the 3rd of the 20th, a bill relating to insurance. Senate Bill 141 by Senator Tippins of the 37th, a bill to amend an act to reincorporate and provide a new charter for the city of Ackworth. Senate Bill 154 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, Jen of the 47th, Robertson of the 29th, Walker of the 3rd of the 20th, Duggan of the 30th, and others, a bill relating to the powers and duties of the Georgia Coroners Training Council. Senate Bill 158 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Tillery of the 19th, Unterman of the 45th, Duggan of the 30th, Miller of the 49th, a bill relating to civil practices, courts, crimes and offenses, criminal procedures, and nuisances. Senate Bill 182 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd, Miller of the 49th, Watson of the 1st, Hill of the 4th, Gooch of the 51st, and others, a bill relating to seafood. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Stevens, 164th District Chairman of the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism has had under consideration the following bill of the House. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 525, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Stevens, the 164th District Chairman. Representative Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman on the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local has had in consideration the following bills, resolutions, of the House and Senate. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 120, do pass. House Bill 329, do pass. House Bill 460, do pass. House Bill 500, do pass. House Bill 510, do pass. House Bill 529, do pass. House Bill 531, do pass. Senate Bill 53, do pass. Senate Bill 93, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman. Representative Abstration, the 104th District Chairman of the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil has had under consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 38, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Abstration, the 104th District Chairman. Representative Lynn Smith of the 70th District Chairman of the Committee on National Resources and Environment submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Natural Resources and Environment has had under consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 220, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 382, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 458, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Lynn Smith of the 70th District Chairman. Representative Bill Hitchens, the 161st District Chairman of the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 325, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 487, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Bill Hitchens, 161st District, Chairman. That completes the reports of standing committees.
We are going on now to the local calendar. Going on to the local calendar, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 120 by Representative Morris of the 26th Bell-Forsyth Judicial Circuit. House Bill 329 by Representative Metz of the 55th City of South Fulton. House Bill 460 by Representative Robichaud of the 48th City of Roswell. House Bill 500 by Representative Chokas of the 138th Sumter County. House Bill 510 by Representative Laricki of the 169th City of Douglas. House Bill 529 by Representative Moore of the 95th City of Norcross. House Bill 531 by Representative Reinders of the 152nd Lee County. Senate Bill 53 by Senator Jones of the 10th DeKalb County. Senate Bill 93 by Senator Thompson of the 14th Cherokee Judicial Circuit.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the ayes are 167. The nays are 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. On Monday, March 4, the House passed House Bill 266. The gentleman from the 38th House District served notice of a motion to reconsider the action of the House in giving House Bill 266 the requisite majority. Now is the time for the gentleman to pursue the motion if he so desires.
I would like to withdraw that motion. Is that?
The gentleman is recognized and has asked for unanimous consent to withdraw his motion for or notice of reconsideration. Is there any objection? Is there any objection? And it is so ordered, and the notice and motion are withdrawn. We're going on now to morning orders. Morning orders. Given that we have a very long calendar today, I'm going to ask that members confine their morning orders to 1 minute each. 1 minute each. Chair recognizes Representative Hughley for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I just want you all to know that today is Links Day at the Capitol, and you will see some of your constituents who belong to this distinguished organization. I hope you will greet them appropriately. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Stovall for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. This morning we have with us from Clayton County Elite Scholars Academy, and also making the transition with Keith Strickland, and they're celebrating the Juvenile Day of Empathy. It's a national movement that gives the criminal justice system a human voice by offering programs instead of prison. And they'll be in room 505 from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We also have Ladies of Favor Dream Academy under the direction of Dr. Gabrielle Starr, and also undergraduate students of Clark Atlanta. Members, will you please help me to welcome those groups that are here at the Capitol with us today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, members. Today I rise to bring attention to Asian American Pacific Islander Equal Pay Day. What today marks 3 months into 2019 is how long it would take for an Asian American woman to make as much as a non-Hispanic man, white man, to make in 2018. We need to continue to work on the issues of equality in this chamber, and I thank you all for your diligence on serving on committees that make it very clear that all Georgians deserve equal pay. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have with us this morning the Georgia Association of Licensed Adoption Agencies. What a wonderful group of folks. These great people make families. They work with newborns and foster children. They connect parents with children needing a family. There are nearly 14,000 children in foster care in Georgia, up from 7,500 in 2011. Please help me welcome the Georgia Association of Licensed Agencies. Please stand. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Park for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. With 135 clubs across 63 counties, the Boys and Girls Club of Georgia serves more than 78,000 youth by helping them reach their full potential. This morning, we have with us in the gallery finalists for the Youth of the Year Award, which recognizes those who have overcome enormous odds and demonstrated exceptional character. Congratulations to each and every one of you. May you continue to overcome any hardships you may face, never give up, and never go weary of doing good. Finalists, please rise and be recognized. Colleagues, please welcome these future leaders to the People's House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Strachan for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are so very excited and honored to have the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here with us at the Capitol today. An outstanding breakfast this morning and friends from all over the state who are visiting with us. If any members of I see our friends are in the gallery, if members of the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce would please rise so that the members of the House can all welcome you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a special group here this morning, and I'm sorry the Queen of the Funeral Caucus is not here to introduce them. But the other funeral caucus is down here, but we have the Georgia Funeral Service practitioners from all over Georgia up here in the gallery. And these people are devoted professionals. They're known as your friendly undertaker in your community. If y'all would please stand and we'll give you a round of applause. Thank y'all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for a morning order Representative Dickerson and Representative Anulowitz. And Representative Robichaud.
Merci beaucoup, Mr. Speaker. Comment ça va, mes amis? This morning, we come here to ask if you had on your Mardi Gras beads. Today is Fat Tuesday in New Orleans. We're all New Orleans citizens, or not citizens, but you know what, natives. And we just wanted to say happy Mardi Gras. Today is Fat Tuesday, and we are celebrating now. We will be celebrating later. And there is king cake in the anteroom for all of you who know about king cakes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The motto of Mardi Gras, the unofficial motto of Mardi Gras, is pro bono publico, for the public good, and I think we all have a little bit of that spirit in us today.
If I could have your attention, please, the House will be at order. We have a special guest with us, no stranger to this chamber. He got his training here in this chamber. That's been kind of a common thread, if you'll notice, this year. But we're very honored to have with us today Congressman Barry Loudermilk from Bartow County. Congressman Loudermilk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I can say I do miss the days here, especially sine die, because we haven't figured out in Congress how to actually end anything. So thank you for all the work you're doing. Look, there's a lot going on in the country these days, and I can't say it's always good. I think we find ourselves more divided at the federal level than ever. But one thing I miss about serving in this body is that even though we had our differences on policy, there's a lot that we did agree on, and we could always come together as friends, as fellow Georgians, and I think you set the standard for that. I still believe that the best government is the government that governs close to the people. And I believe that the people of Georgia are always better when you're the biggest influence on their lives, not those in Washington, D.C., and I don't believe that one size fits all is good for the nation. We have 200 plus years of state legislators doing what is best for the people, and I commend you for doing that. We do have a bill coming up this week that I'll be leading the opposition tomorrow on the House floor, and it would basically want to be one of the largest federal overreaches into states' power and authority that we've ever seen come before the floor, and it would basically federalize the entire election system, taking all the power away from the state legislatures, from redistricting all the way through to the ballot of any elections. Now, regardless of how you feel about the elections, I can tell you this: you're going to meet the needs of the people of Georgia much more than a federal bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. will. So we'll be backing up you and the work that you do. We're working on finalizing the disaster funding, which we hope to get done. I talked to the president. I talked to our members of the Senate. Hopefully this week we'll have an agreement and get some of that needed disaster relief to Georgia. But thank you for what you're doing. I know you're getting near the end of the session. And I appreciate all you're doing, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for your leadership here. I do miss spending those days sitting in the corner over there. But God bless you, God bless the state of Georgia, and God bless America. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the chair of the Minority Caucus, Chairman Beverly, to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce Dr. Keisha Renee Callens, is a Georgia-trained obstetrician gynecologist with the community healthcare system in Jones and Twiggs County offices. She serves as clinical assistant professor in the Department of Community Medicine at Mercer University School of Medicine. She is a 2017 alumni of MAG's Georgia Physicians Leadership Academy and a 2015 alum of Leadership Georgia. If she's 2013, she would have been in the best class ever. Her interests include mentoring students, reading, cooking, and raising chickens. Dr. Callens is married to Judge Joel Callens, and they are proud parents of Joel, Abigail McKinley, and they have 2 dogs, Bear and Brownie Sprinkles. I give to you Dr. Keisha Callens.
Mr. Speaker, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here to address you today. First of all, I just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here today. And it's an honor to be able to serve you. For all the people in the room that have ovaries, you can come and see me today. I'm all about women's health. And so just real quick, I wanted to share with you a quick story. So as an OBGYN, I have the privilege of focusing on the areas covered by the underwear, okay? That's my area. But every now and then, someone asks me to do something like look in their ears, which is a little bit outside of my zone. And I had a patient recently who did say, Dr. Callens, I'm having trouble hearing. And so I looked in her ears, and I looked at the good side first and the other side, and then I realized I couldn't see her eardrum. So I went and got my medical assistant, and we actually washed her ears out, and voila, she could hear. And so the lesson of the story for you is everyone here is an area of expertise, but with your scope of influence, you still have an opportunity to make an impact for the people that are around you, even if that's not your area. So if I only stuck to my zone, I would not have been able to help her get the wax out of her ears. Very simple. So I just encourage you to use your scope of influence, even outside your areas of expertise, to continue to make a difference and to make your decisions count for the state of Georgia. Thank you for all you do.
House will continue to be in order. The clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 316.
House Resolution 316 by Representatives Myrie of the 135th, Smith the 134th, Hughley the 136th, Buckner the 137th, and Smith the 133rd. A resolution recognizing March 5th, 2019 as Columbus Day at the state capitol and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes the Dean of this House, Chairman Smyrie, for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. It's a pleasure for me to be here as chair of the Columbus delegation. I want to thank all of our delegation members for being here this morning. And of course, today is Columbus Day, and Mr. Speaker, we wanted to give you a gift of token of our appreciation for your leadership here in the House. And on your desk, you all have one that I've just presented to the speaker. So we're delighted to have you all here, the Columbus people here this morning. And of course, we're having a reception this evening at the Georgia Depot, and we extend an invitation for you to come there. With us this morning, we'll be speaking is the mayor of the city of Columbus, Skip Henderson, and the commanding general, Gary Brito. But other members that are here with them as well is Command Sergeant Major Celestine, City Manager Isaiah Hughley, y'all know him. Give him a round of applause. That's the spouse of Representative Hughley. The CEO Chamber, Brian Anderson, and Jason Cuvas, who is the chair of the chamber, who's a regional vice president for Georgia Power. And of course, we'll have later on today the president of Columbus State University, Chris Mark Wood. So if you would, ladies and gentlemen, would y'all welcome the mayor of the great city of Columbus, Georgia, Skip Henderson. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I do want to thank you for allowing Columbus, Georgia to join you in the chamber, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. And we want to thank you, too, on behalf of the nearly 200,000 residents of Columbus, Georgia, for the work y'all do every day moving our great state forward. We are firmly committed to helping you achieve that any way we can in Columbus. We understand that what's good for Georgia is good for Columbus. We also understand that what's good for Columbus is good for Georgia. And to that end, I've got to take this opportunity to acknowledge and to thank our local legislative delegation for the amazing work that they do for the state of Georgia by representing so capably and ably the citizens that sent them up here. We want to invite you to come see us in Columbus. We think you'll find an amazing community that is committed to business, committing to serving all of the citizens by reducing poverty, and also we're committed to an outstanding quality of life through the arts and entertainment and through some of the adventure activities like whitewater rafting. We'll even let you zip line into another state. God bless you for what you do for Georgia, and God bless you for what you do for Columbus. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for the warm reception. On behalf of all the soldiers and families of Fort Benning, Georgia, we thank you for your untiring support of the United States military and, of course, the U.S. Army. We are extremely proud to be one of the military installations in the state of Georgia, and as equally proud to have recently crossed our centennial, where 100 years ago, Fort Benning started, largely due to the great support and vision of the city of Columbus and the support of the state. We look forward as well to serving with you in the next 100 years as we train the best Army that this state and nation will have and continue to build our future force. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are going on to the rules calendar. We have a lot of bills to consider today. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 491.
House Bill 491 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, Smith, the 134th, Lumpson of the 12th, Hawkins of the 27th, Blackman of the 146th. Be titled an act to amend Chapter 13 to Title 33, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance holding company systems, so as to update the regulation of insurance company holding systems. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, today I bring you House Bill 491. This is the bill that has gone through the Insurance Committee and Subcommittee and passed. It is required by the NAIC accreditation standards This change will allow the state of Georgia to act as a group-wide supervisor for internationally active insurance groups. They're the IAG. The landscape of business is constantly changing, and Atlanta and all of Georgia has become a hub for insurance companies. Adopting this standard will confirm that Georgia has the authority to act as a group-wide supervisor. Again, this is needed, and it has to be passed by 2024 to stay accredited, and there are already 26 states have already adopted this model. Are there any questions?
You have no questions.
I appreciate your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 491 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 491, the ayes are 154, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 239.
House Bill 239 by Representative Stration of the 104th and Fleming of the 121st. To be entitled an act to amend Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to courts so as to establish a Georgia Business Court pursuant to the Constitution of this state. This bill having referred to the Committee of Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Stration to present the bill.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you today House Bill 239. You might recall that last year this General Assembly passed in each body a constitutional amendment establishing a statewide business court. That constitutional amendment went to the voters, and with almost 70% support, Georgia voters approved establishing this court. Many times when there's complex litigation, the parties to the case, complex business litigation, the parties to the case are interested in a quick outcome and the availability of a judge who has some familiarity with these issues. House Bill 239 is the enabling legislation to accompany that constitutional amendment. And what this bill will do is it will establish a statewide court and allow for the court to begin operations in August of 2020. This is common sense legislation in that it's going to be a great economic benefit for Georgia, like we've seen in some other states with the existence of a business court, and I'd ask for your favorable consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Fleming to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the gentleman in the well, is it not true that I want to thank you for all your hard work on this business court? I appreciate your work with all the parties involved, and this will be a great thing for Georgia to attract more business and keep us #1 in the nation for that purpose.
Well, I thank the chairman for the question. I want to thank the chairman for his leadership and work on this issue, and I'm very proud of this legislation. We've taken all input from all interested parties, and I think we have a really great piece of legislation to put forward here today. Mr. Speaker, I know that there are other bills on the calendar, so I'll yield the well at this time and ask for the members for their favorable consideration. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass. All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 239 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 239. The ayes are 156, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 456.
House Bill 456 by Representative Tankersley, the 160th, Powell, the 171st, Dickey, the 140th, Houston to the 170th, Burns to the 159th, and others, be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 81 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government budgets and audits, so as to increase the expenditure amount for which a local government may elect an annual report. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jan Tankersley to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stand before you today to ask for your support on House Bill 456. This legislation will provide much needed assistance to our smaller rural municipalities that are located all over our great state. Under the current law that's been in existence since 1994, cities with under 1,500 residents or expenditures of less than $300,000 may opt to use either a biannual audit, or they can choose to have an agreed upon procedures with a CPA. Our Georgia Department of Audit and Accounts reviews these agreed upon procedures just like they do an audit. These expenditures, though, extend to spliced projects, grant projects, and other expenses that already on their own require separate reporting. And every now and then a small rural city will have to replace a fire truck or some other piece of big equipment, and that causes them to exceed the limited expenses. So, and this bill will raise the limit on the expenditures from $300,000 to $550,000, and we simply use the CPI index plus 35% for inflation, and that's the same exact formula that was used back in 2004 to raise this limit. It has now been 15 years since we've looked at raising the amount on the expenditure side. So it will allow an estimated 125 cities to exercise this cost-saving measure. It is endorsed by the Georgia Municipal Association, and I do ask for your favorable consideration, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer them, or otherwise I will yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 456 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 456. The ayes are 163, the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 314.
House Bill 314 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, Hawkins, the 27th, Morris, the 26th, Barr, the 103rd, Tanner, the 9th, and others, being titled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 52 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the registration, operation, and sales of watercraft. This bill having been referred to the Committee Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ron Stevens to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 314 seeks to, for the third time, try to do nothing more, nothing less than generate a title at no charge to the consumer and at no charge to the state. Every time that we register a boat outside of the trailer, everything else, whenever you register a boat, goes to the Department of Natural Resources. They contract out to get those stickers that go on the boat. If you'll pass this bill for the first time, it will also blindly generate a title so that your bank can have it, and we can cut down on the 90+ stolen boats that we've had in this state. Mr. Speaker, that's all that I have, and if I'll answer any questions if there are any.
You have no questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 314 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 314. The ayes are 154, the nays are 10. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 365.
House Bill 365 by Representative Blackman, the 146th, Harrell, the 106th, Powell, the 171st, Holcomb of the 81st, Carson, the 46th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5C, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the alternative ad valorem taxes on motor vehicles. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Blackman to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, bring before you House Bill 365, which has really seemed like it's become the annual TAVT update. We have included in this a provision that has passed this body the last couple of sessions that closes a loophole with regards to the used car valuation. It also lowers the rate from 7% to 6.6%. Just wanted to say thank you. I think this process over the last 3 sessions has really been inclusive with regards to all the industry players, and really an exercise in unity, I think, reinforcing our state's motto, not for ourselves but for others. Ask for your favorable consideration. And Mr. Speaker, again, just to thank those that have participated, Chairman Harrell, Chairman Powell, Representative Holcomb, Carson, and Nolowitz. Appreciate everybody's support on this. It has been a team effort. Be happy to try to address any questions if there are any.
Do you have a question if you care to yield?
Yes, sir, I will yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Fleming to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the gentleman in the well, I want to, isn't it true that I want to thank you for your hard work on this, and I think the description that you said of not for ourselves but for others is an excellent way to describe that. Could you expand upon that a little bit more, particularly as this may relate to other theories that involve circulation?
Yes, sir. I think what we find is that most often with folks in this body and with regards to this bill, people have put others first, and I think it's important for that to be a consideration for all of us as we do our jobs and our duty up here as we represent the folks back in our district.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll ask for favorable consideration and yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 365 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 365. The ayes are 168, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 367.
House Bill 367 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, Smith, the 134th, Blackman, the 146th, Lumsden, the 12th, Williams, the 148th. Be entitled an act to amend Title 33, the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to insurance, so as to enact the Corporate Governance Annual Disclosure Act. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring you House Bill 367. This act is required to maintain our accreditation with the insurance department. They've requested this bill. It will create a new filing for each insurer and provide that the Department of Insurance will have a better understanding about the management and how well the carriers are being run. Currently, they file every 5 years. This will be required every year, but it is done electronically. There's no additional cost to it. And again, this is something the department has requested, and we need that to keep our NAIC accreditation.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your favorable consideration of the bill. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agree to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 367. The ayes are 165, The nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 253.
House Bill 253 by Representative Hawkins, of the 27th, Benton the 94th, Mathiak the 73rd, Werkheiser the 157th, LaHood the 175th. Be entitled an act to amend Title 43, the Fiscal Code of Georgia annotated relating to professions and businesses so as to update and revise various provisions relating to occupational therapists. This bill having referred to the Committee on Regulated Industries. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hawkins to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 235 actually addresses code revisions and code sections relating to the profession of occupational therapy. The last revision was done over 20 years ago. The revisions in this bill address new educational standards, which now there is a Bachelor of Science degree requiring 94 hours at schools like the Augusta University down our Medical College of Georgia. This bill also addresses updating treatment terminology and modalities. It also incorporates telehealth language, and there's no expansion of scope in this bill, and I've worked with the Secretary of State's office on issues like disciplinary language and academic programs which are mentioned in this bill. I ask for your consideration and your support and your vote. Thank you.
No questions. I'm sorry, you do have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Bennett to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, he does.
Isn't that true that this bill for occupational therapy will help improve the services that are given to all citizens in Georgia?
Absolutely, and this bill will also help extend those services to rural areas too.
Thank you very much. Very good bill.
Thank you.
No further questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 253 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 253. The ayes are 158, the nays are 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 368.
House Bill 368 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, Smith, the 134th, Blackman, the 146th, Lumpson, the 12th, Williams, the 148th. Be entitled an act to amend Title 33, the Fiscal Code of Georgia, annotated relating to insurance, so as to provide for the division of a domestic insurer into 2 or more resulting domestic insurers. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, today I am the insurance lady. This is my last bill, but it does have to do with our insurance. It's the corporate division. This allows Georgia domestic insurance carriers to divide into 2 or more insurance companies. The commissioner will retain full authority to approve or deny all of the related transactions. There is no reduction in any regulatory or financial requirements. This bill requires dividing insurers to develop a plan, which the commissioner will follow and make sure that everything is in order. The Department of Insurance has reviewed this bill, and they feel they have the authority. This will help them to operate. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
No questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 368. The ayes are 165, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving for a time now to the supplemental calendar, the clerk will read the caption to House Bill 455.
House Bill 455 by Representative Houston, the 170th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Title II of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to agriculture so as to create the Georgia Agricultural Marketing Authority. This bill, having been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Houston to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 455 creates the Georgia Agricultural Marketing Authority, and this authority will oversee farmers markets in the state of Georgia. And let me give a little clarification. It will oversee the state farmers market. This has nothing to do with your local farmers market that you have on Saturday that we all enjoy. This is our state farmers market. The authority will consist of 10 members, 3 to be appointed by the Speaker, 3 by the Lieutenant Governor, and 3 by the Governor. And the chairman of this authority will be the Commissioner on Agriculture. This authority will be very similar to the one that we created to oversee our state fairgrounds. And we all know how successful that has been. And we feel by creating this authority, it will help us revive some of the state farmers markets and see a proven success that's so important to agriculture. If I have any questions, I'll be glad to ask. If not, I yield the well.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, I will yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Stovall to your left for a question.
That's a gentle lady to yield.
Yes.
Is it not true I am in support of having the market authority established so that it can be able to support our Atlanta Farmers Market in Forest Park and that also serves the entire state of Georgia?
Yes, you are, and I appreciate everything you've done to try to revive farmers markets in this state. You've worked mighty hard. Thank you. Any other questions? I yield the well. If there are no questions, I yield the well.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 455 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 455. The ayes are 162, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 447.
House Bill 447 by Representative LaRicchia, the 169th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to sales and use taxes so as to exempt jet fuel from the state sales and use tax for a period of time. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes the governor's floor leader, Representative LaRicchia, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present House Bill 447 today, and just wanted to remind everybody about how blessed we've been in Georgia, to brag that we're the #1 state in the nation to do business for several years. And the jet fuel tax has been helpful to that. It allows us to continue to prosper, and they have been a part of that success. What this bill simply does is extend the sunset on the jet fuel tax exemption, and there's also a section in there that creates a 1/2 cent per gallon excise tax that will generate about $3.5 million to $5 million that we will use as the state portion of a federal match of 9-1, about $35 million that will go out to general aviation airports, and more specifically out to rural airports that desperately need a consistent revenue stream that we can continue to provide that help for them well into the future. Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I'll be happy to yield the well.
You have a few questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to your right for a question.
This gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate the methodology here that we're putting in as far as the excise tax, to go back and look at how are we funding our local airports. Isn't it true that there are a great deal, multi-million-dollar projects at our local airport that are not eligible for federal funding, and those are, you know, $50-60 million or more?
Yes, there is, and there's much more that we can do, I'm sure.
Additional question to the gentleman, if
yes, sir.
Will yield. Again, I like the methodology here of what we're doing, but wouldn't it be more prudent that if we had a little bit more of a percentage of this excise tax, that it would shore up the funding for our local airports? After all, isn't it true that aviation in Georgia is a very, very important industry and a very growing industry, not only at our Atlanta, you know, our big metropolitan areas, but all over in your district and in my district, which are more rural areas, if you will, and those airports are equally important economically to our areas.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I'll respond in this way. The average over the last several years of what the feds will appropriate to Georgia is in the $25 to $35 million range. So if we generate revenue above and beyond what the state match will be, that will also be used for these general aviation airports all around the state. But if we raise more, they don't automatically match every dollar 9-1. It's only what they have appropriated for the state's match. But we are also looking at some funding that was made available through HB 170 that has the ability to put to general aviation airports, and we're also looking at using some of that money as well.
Gentlemen, one further question.
Absolutely.
Well, I understand that, but isn't it true, though, that some of these airport projects that are needed at our local airports, they are not entitled to or will get federal match? So those airports will end up having to be funded with state dollars and or local dollars only.
Yes, sir, and that's where we put in the House Bill 170, that revenue can be used for those general aviation projects. And I don't know that we could meet the needs of all of the rural and general aviation airports in any one fiscal year ever, but we have certainly stepped up to the plate in this piece of legislation to give them a consistent revenue stream to be able to draw down to help pay for the ones they do qualify for.
One last question to the gentleman.
One more.
Would you be, as this bill progresses through, amenable to looking at increasing that percentage so that we can get a better funding mechanism, a more sure funding mechanism for our local airports across Georgia?
Absolutely. As we move legislation through these bodies, we are always open to conversations with the members about how to improve every bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, since that was a little longer than I expected, I'm going to ask for your favorable consideration to House Bill 447. At this time, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Chairman Belton rise?
Sir, pursuant to the Chocus rule, I'd like to recuse myself from this vote.
Under Rule 133, the gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Stovall rise?
Parliamentary
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that Clayton County is still facing need for a consistent revenue stream in the amount of $20 million a year?
I really have no direct knowledge of that. If the lady states that, I'm sure she believes it to be true. What purpose does the governor's floor leader, Representative Rogers, rise?
Mr. Speaker, is it not true
Why do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry. Lost my mind.
State your inquiry.
Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, is it not true that every major competing state for business around us has this jet fuel tax, and that this bill is extremely important to us to continue to retain our #1 rating?
It is my understanding that the first part of the question is correct. The rest was a statement of opinion, I think. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 447. The ayes are 140, the nays are 25. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 406.
House Bill 406 by Representative Williamson of the 115th and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 36 and Title 48 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to local government revenue and taxation respectively, so as to require joint authorities to furnish certain information necessary for the state auditor. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. The committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Williamson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the House, I bring
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Whip Kelly, for correcting me. This is a transparency bill that clarifies reporting requirements for multi-county joint development authorities where revenue sharing agreements are in place. It's just a transparency bill about how joint development authorities where they're literally sharing revenues, reports back to the Department of Revenue through the state auditor, where all the associated taxing entities know where the money's coming from and how it'll be used. Be happy to answer any questions. If not, I'll ask for your favorable.
No questions.
I'll ask for your favorable consideration and yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 406 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 406. The ayes are 168, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 346.
House Bill 346 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to landlord and tenant generally so as to prohibit retaliation by a landlord against a tenant for taking certain actions. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you a very important bill in the substitute to House Bill 346. If you'd asked me last week, I would have not said I would have been able to say this today, but I want to thank the Judiciary Committee for 14 hours of deliberation on a 2-page bill. They have looked at this bill word by word, both Republicans and Democrats, and I really do appreciate their hard work on this important piece of legislation. This is a bill that 41 other states already have similar legislation in their laws. 41 other states. And this law is a ban on retaliatory evictions of tenants. Now, what this means, and this is about slum landlords. Let's just be right and get right down to the facts. This is not talking about those of you, and there are several in this room, that own rental property. And you keep it up and you do what's right. It may not be fancy, but it's clean and it doesn't have rats and insects and mold on the walls because you're a good landlord. But in this state, we have lots of bad landlords. And what they do is when a poor tenant moves in because they need a place to put a roof over their head and a place for their children to sleep at night, and the whitewash that the owner threw up before they moved in, the mold begins to seep through and their children get sick and they go to the emergency room with asthma attacks. Asthma, the #1 reason that children in this state go to CHOA and to a hospital. And asthma can be deadly. Children die from asthma attacks. And mold is one of the worst offenders that causes that. And you know what happens when children are sick because they live in these conditions of rats and bugs? They miss school. And if a child misses 15 days of school, or either excused or unexcused, their chances of graduating dropped by 50%. Did you hear me? Our education department and we in here deal with what we can do to get our graduation rates up. The other things is when kids are transient because their parents get evicted and then they have to change schools. If you were here when Chief Justice Melton was here and you saw the little video that he did, it's about the situation that I'm talking about here now. Because they went in to help the poorest, lowest performing school in Atlanta, to help improve, as volunteer lawyers, the statistics there. And what they found is that it had a 40% transient rate. Same thing that used to happen with Brumby Elementary in my school district. And they wanted to help, but it wasn't a matter of tutoring. What they found that most of these students were living in a rundown apartment complex covered with mold and rats and all, and as soon as their parents could find another place to live when they got evicted, then the child was moved to another school. So what they did is they sent volunteer lawyers in to help, and they cleaned up the place, and the first year, the transient rate dropped by 30%, and the illnesses went down, and that school now is gradually coming up, and the students are doing well. And as I said, the Chief Justice thought it was so important that he showed us the clip. So what this is, after this bill, the apartment people and the realtors have both come on board with this bill. GMA approves this bill. It is very, very carefully crafted to where that the tenant has to be a good tenant. They can't be behind on their rent. They have to have told the landlord that repairs needed to be made, and when they weren't made, after a couple of times of telling the landlord, then they go to code revision. And what would normally, and seems to be happening more and more, is that when they go to code revision, what has happened is the owner has begun to have retaliatory eviction notices to put them out. And then across our state, when the tenant is gone and they're out because they were evicted, then code enforcement drops the complaint and never goes in to see the apartment and what it really looks like. And so it's a vicious circle. This is carefully crafted to protect the most vulnerable, some of the most vulnerable people we have, but it's also crafted not to put an undue burden on good landlords, but to go after the bad ones. I'm not a lawyer, and I know a couple of lawyers are going to speak on the bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield the well and ask this body for a favorable vote. I stayed longer than I usually do, but I am passionate about this. I want the children of this state to be healthy, and I want them to succeed in school, because if you don't get an education, your chance of living in poverty is tremendously high. And I want what's best for Georgians, and that they all have a chance to succeed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
You had questions. Lady yields the well. Chair recognizes Representative Abel Mabel Thomas to speak to the bill.
Mr. Speaker and members of the distinguished body, I had to rise today because this is one of the better pieces of legislation that's come before this particular body. A lot of times when my constituents ask me about things related to housing, we don't have a lot of bills in the hopper per se that pass or have a good chance of passing. Most of our attention, rightfully so, is on education and some of the economic development issues of the state. But I submit to you that housing is an economic development issue, and that in my particular community in English Avenue and Vine City, we did a survey on mold and mildew in homes, and it was so many people living in houses with mold and mildew, which has been stated by the chairman, had made them sick, and it did affect their whole family in different ways, and specifically it did affect the children. To have a bill that actually gives a tenant an opportunity to speak on the substandard conditions that they are living in and not fear that they will be retributed in terms of even being put out the apartment that they're in. There's such a lack of affordable and quality housing. You may get something affordable in Atlanta, but what you're living in is not quality. And so to even have such a bill before us, it does send a message that we as legislators are beginning to look out for the least of these, specifically around housing. Because if you don't have a roof over your head, it is too hard to do anything, and also what we're talking about is a little bit further in, we're talking about the issue of homelessness and how the effect of people being pushed out of housing throughout the state, I'm sure, but definitely in District 56. So I just rise to ask you to please vote for this bill. It's a great step in the right direction, and there is some other legislation around healthy housing and other positive legislation that is in this body that we hope that also will get out, and so that we will go back to our respective areas and say, well done. Thank you very much, and I yield the will.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had no intentions this morning of speaking to this bill, but I wanted to speak to it from a little different perspective, one that we have not addressed. Now, this is a great state for the military. We'll support the military. I contend to you that this bill will help lower-ranking military families, families who are E2s, 3s, and 4s that happen to be married, cannot afford much of the housing around the bases where they come. So they end up in less than desirable circumstances. These people have to be deployed, put their lives on the line, and leave their families in substandard housing. These kids did not ask to be born and live at Fort Stewart or Fort Benning or Moody or any place else. But it is incumbent upon us to know that they deserve a decent place to stay and the lack of retaliatory measures when they complain. Thank God that about 3 weeks ago, the federal government finally decided that they had a lot of cleaning up to do on military housing when we looked at moles and roaches in the housing on military posts. But unfortunately, they could not complain because we have super landlords who are paid $2,000 a month for them. And they had no say, and Congress is working on that now. We need to handle this. We have thousands of people who, through no fault of their own, live in this housing. And we end up having to take care of children in emergency rooms for asthma and other diseases because of substandard housing. We need to make a stand on this. All of the reasons I've heard are great ones, but also let's remember that we ask people to go fight for this country, and we need to do everything to be assured that their families are in good housing and don't run the risk of complaining and having to look for another bad house. I say whatever you do, vote yes, and think about your military families when you vote yes for this bill.
Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Kelly, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of House Bill 346, and at the beginning of my remarks, I want to thank those who have worked so hard to perfect this measure. I want to thank Chair Lady Cooper for bringing it and for the passion she has for some of our most vulnerable citizens, our children. House Bill 346 simply creates a case of retaliation for aggrieved tenants to bring once they've been dispossessed for no other purpose than the fact that they complained about their living conditions. Madam Chair started the conversation, and we've heard it repeated, about some of the horrible, unbelievable living conditions that some of our children and people across our state are having to live through. Our subcommittee and our full committee and judiciary worked diligently to try and make sure that they would have a remedy under the law and be treated like the first-class citizens that they are. Mr. Speaker, simply this bill creates a claim for retaliation, gives landlords adequate opportunities to defend that accusation, and then provides damages when found of that by the court of law. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
I'll be glad to yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Dreyer to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I certainly will yield.
Thank you. Isn't it true that this is a conservatively drafted measure that would not put an undue burden on landlords in our state?
That was certainly our intention when we started the subcommittee, and I think that's what we ended up with today, so I would agree with you.
Does the gentleman further yield?
I will.
Isn't it true that Thomasville Heights, which we've heard so much about, is in my district, and this measure would provide just a small opening to help those families in my district?
We heard Chief Justice Melton bring to our attention, for those of us who weren't already aware of the situation in Thomasville Heights and the need for us to further address it in this body, and I think this certainly does that.
Thank you for all your work, Mr. Whip.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Thomas to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I certainly will.
Is it not true that this measure has already been adopted in 41 states and all of the states that surround Georgia?
I believe that some version, some right of action against retaliation exists in 41 other states. Now, I can't say this exact language. We work to perfect a Georgia-grown solution, but something in this vein has certainly been passed in 41 other states.
Thank you so much for this measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With no further questions, I'll yield the well.
You have one more if you care to yield.
I'll be glad to, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore to your left for a question.
Does the Speaker yield?
I'll be glad to yield.
Doesn't the retaliation in this bill start after 6 months? And wouldn't that prevent retaliation and make it more difficult to prove?
It states, if you look on line 26, that if a tenant files a complaint to the landlord or against the landlord with local code enforcement, and then the landlord takes action subsequent to that complaint, that after 6 months, within that 6-month period, that would create a claim of retaliation. So first, anywhere in the rental period, a tenant would be able to make a complaint. And if in the immediate 6 months after that, if the landlord took a dispossessory action, reduced services or increased the rents, then they would have a claim for retaliation. But no, I don't think that it limits that. Mr. Speaker, I think we have a great bill before us. We've had a lot of people who worked on this measure. I want to thank the advocates and the citizens of Georgia who came down to testify. I want to appreciate those who represent the interests of private property owners and the rental industry for working with us diligently and removing their opposition to this measure. I'll yield the well and ask for favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 346 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Chokas rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I request to be excused from from voting on this legislation.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Dukes rise?
Mr. Speaker, 133.
I'm sorry?
I request to be excused from voting on this provision pursuant to House Rule 133.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Chairman Tanner rise?
Speaker, I'd like to also invoke the Chocus rule.
Gentleman has that right. We may not have a quorum when we get through here. What purpose does Representative Washburn rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Rule 133, I'd request to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right. Journal will so reflect. What purpose does Chairman Harrell rise?
Mr. Speaker, I also need to invoke Rule 133.
Gentleman has that right. What purpose does Chairman Corbett rise?
Rule 133, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Chairman Werkheiser rise?
Pursuant to Rule 133, would like to be excused from the vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Chairman Reinders rise?
Evoke Rule 133, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has that right. The journal will so reflect. What purpose does Chairman Allen Powell rise?
Me too.
Same response. What purpose does Representative Stover rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Are all these guys slumlords?
We might not want to know the answer to that question. What purpose does Representative Collins rise?
Invoke House Rule 133.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Hutchinson rise?
Same thing, Speaker Ralston.
Lady has that right. The journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Bennett rise?
Jump on the bandwagon. Thank you so much. I'm not a slumlord.
Lady has that right. What purpose does Representative Turner rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that there are some people who have voted that have also invoked Rule 133 in this case? And how would that affect the outcome of the vote, please?
The invoking of the rule would be reflected in the journal, which I think would take precedent over a vote on the board. Yeah, because once you cast your vote, you can't withdraw it, but the journal would override that. What purpose does Representative Dickerson rise?
Pursuant to what Rule 133, Speaker Ralston.
Lady has that right. Journal will so reflect. All right, I stand corrected. The clerk's office informs me that you can hit both the red and the green button at the same time, and that will remove a vote previously cast. So everybody going to clean them up? Has everybody, have all members voted or removed a vote? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 346. The ayes are 131, the nays are 25. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 472.
House Bill 472 by Representative Reeves, the 34th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating the general provisions of the Juvenile Code so as to revise procedures concerning removal considerations. This bill having referred to the Committee on Juvenile Justice, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Reeves to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I guess the first thing I want to say is this bill deals with foster children and helping our foster children. So I hope the Chokus rule doesn't come into play on this bill, Representative Chokus. But House Bill 472, as most of you are aware, we have worked very hard in recent years to care for our most vulnerable population, and that's our children who are in foster care. And as we have witnessed, the number of children in Georgia who are in foster care is at an all-time high, and we have had to respond to that. We've done so in many ways, including adoption reform and other measures. House Bill 472 is a bill brought by the governor's office in DFACS to continue our work in these areas. The bill basically does two things. In 2018, the federal government passed the Family First Prevention Services Act, which will be implemented in 2020. This is a significant effort to increase federal support of specific services to intervene in homes to attempt to prevent the need of child removal from the family. And so in order to make room for that change coming, we needed to modify some Georgia codes to allow our judges to be able to take advantage of these options that are going to be coming down from the Families First Act. And so one way this does this is it expands the options for our juvenile court judges to place children in what's called a temporary alternate setting or temporary alternate placement to foster care before removing them from their home and community and placing them with DFACS in a foster care family or home. The bill lays out the options in the process for placement with fictive kin and other alternatives, and the bill also details the court's requirements and findings to do so. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Speaker.
you do have a question.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Thomas to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that this bill, this fictive kin bill, will help thousands of children that would be going into the foster care system to be with people that they are familiar with and that have known for most of their life?
That's absolutely right. And the crux of this bill is that when a child is removed from a home, and usually a lot of times in an emergency situation, and they are taken to be in the care of someone that they've never met, and oftentimes it involves being removed from the community that they live in. It's very disruptive and has a lot of long-term consequences. This bill is an effort to try to keep children with folks that, just as you said, who they are familiar with within their community, that on that temporary basis, while the courts sort out what's going on at their home, keeping them in their community to limit that disruption as small as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this bill.
You yield for one more question?
I will.
Chair recognizes Representative Hutchinson to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Isn't it true that with this bill, it would make it easier to transfer custody of a child in the initial stages of foster care?
I'm sorry, speak up a little louder. Can you?
Is it true that this bill would make it easier to transfer custody of a child to another person during the initial stages of foster care?
Well, when you say transfer custody, that would be one way to say it. It gives the courts a different option. And a lot of times that option would be somebody who is a relative or somebody that that the child is extraordinarily close to. And it's not necessarily a part of a long-term custody transfer, but for temporary purposes, yes, it does make that easier for the courts.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Will this affect the financial support offered to people who take custody of their relatives in the future, such as family support services and any kind of financial support or Medicaid in the future?
If they're under the, if it's through DFACS, then they will receive the fund. My understanding is they'll receive the funding that's in place right now with relative care, and I believe that we may have even increased that under the budget this year, the amount of relative care for that stipend. So
Further yield for one more question.
one more, yes.
So if you're not transferring custody, but placing a child with a relative or a fictive kin, that means they're not in DFACS custody, so that person would not be eligible for any financial assistance?
If they're not under the custody of, if it's not through DFACS, then there very well may not be financial. If it's not through DFACS, then it very well may not be financial support there in this temporary basis. I'm not 100% certain of the answer to that, but I will find out and tell you. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll yield, Mr. Speaker. Yield the well. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 472 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 472, the ayes are 166, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 287.
House Bill 287 by Representative Dubnik of the 29th to be entitled an Act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition rate computation and exemptions from income taxes, so as to lead an income tax deduction for certain physicians serving as community-based facility physicians. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Dubnik to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you today House Bill 287, and I want to start by establishing a fact that is the basis for this bill. In Georgia, we have a critical shortage of physicians, specifically in the arena of primary care. And today I'm here to talk to you very briefly about our primary care physicians as physician assistants, advanced practice registered nurses, and our doctors, both MDs and DOs. And I want to read this definition to make sure that I get it right. This bill seeks to support Georgia preceptors, and I'm going to pause there and read you this short definition of preceptor. That is a licensed APRN, a licensed PA, or a licensed Georgia physician, again, either MD or DO, providing uncompensated community-based training for medical, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant students matriculating in a Georgia program for selected rotations. And again, this bill is seeking to move a tax deduction to a tax credit for those primary care preceptors. Folks, we have a shortage of these physicians, and we know that if we train those students here in Georgia, that they will stay and practice here in Georgia. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to yield for any questions if there are any.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration on House Bill 287.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 287 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 287. The ayes are 163, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 471.
House Bill 471 by Representative Saints of the 180th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 40, the official code of Georgia annotated relating the cancellation, suspension, and revocation of licenses. This bill had been referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Sains to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill ensures that we act to affirm the Georgia Supreme Court's decision in the Elliott case, so that officers that are trying to enforce DUI procedures in Georgia's roadways have the correct tool they need to properly enforce those procedures. Currently, it's written in statute what an officer says for the implied consent, and the Elliott case has revoked the ability for the officer to state that a breathalyzer will be utilized against them in court as part of their Fourth Amendment rights. So this purely mirrors an affirmation of that case and takes away the breathalyzer element to be utilized against them in court. They are still able to voluntarily submit to it. It just can't be done through a statement of a utilization in court of not voluntarily submitting. If there's no questions,
you have some questions. If you care to yield,
I yield, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Strachan to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that upon receiving the Elliott opinion on President's Day in February that you began working on this issue to address the implied consent statute in Georgia?
Yes, sir.
And is it not true that because of your legislation, we'll be able to allow officers to give a legally valid implied consent notice to motorists so that any evidence that ultimately is received may be admissible in court? Is that right?
It is, and it gives clarity to each agency. Currently, there's several opinions on what they should do. This gives clarity to utilize what they've been using in a constitutionally valid way.
To my friend in the well, is this your first bill?
It is.
You picked a very serious bill for your first bill. I want to congratulate you. Thank you for your outstanding work on this.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
Does gentleman yield?
I do.
Isn't it true that you're a peace officer?
I am.
Isn't it true that you've worked hard and studied this bill in preparation for bringing it to the floor today?
I have.
So as a peace officer that has experience in this area and that's studied your bill, would you be willing to recite the entire implied consent notice without reading it to the members of this body?
I don't think I had done that in the past without the utilization of that card, so I don't think I can. Being a legislator made me no more smarter, so I can't do it now.
Now, does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, I do.
Now, days ago in committee, you seem to be up on this bill. You seem to be quite well studied on it. Would you be willing to submit the chemical test to demonstrate that your clarity of mind is today what it was the other day in committee when we gave you a due pass recommendation?
Blood, breath, or urine?
I think under this, I think you only have two choices. Isn't that true?
Blood or urine.
Thank you. Congratulations on your first bill.
Do you further yield?
I'll yield for one more question.
Chair recognizes Representative Holcomb to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
I'm aware of who you replaced in the General Assembly, and so I have to ask, does this bill send a message to terrorists?
It only sends a message to Georgia motorists that they should utilize our roadway without intoxication to ensure there's no endangerment to those who use our roadway.
Thank you.
I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 471 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Henson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true we're dealing with a bill regarding driving under the influence? And
yes.
isn't it further true that we're also bringing in hunting and drinking while hunting? And I think I'm asking for an explanation as to why we've included hunting in this legislation.
You're asking for an explanation as to what?
Why we have a bill on regarding driving under the influence, and isn't it true that we're also addressing hunting under the influence? And isn't it true that this is addressing more than one issue?
We are dealing with this because the Supreme Court of Georgia struck down a law that is pretty central to prosecuting drunk driving on Georgia's roadways. So that's why the bill was brought, and that's why the hard work the representative put in on it. What purpose does Chairman Setzler rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
Speaker.
your inquiry.
Isn't it true that this bill, to the lady's question, addresses driving under the influence, boating under the influence, and hunting under the influence? And when those, when there's an arrest in those, isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, the implied consent language is almost identical. It mirrors those, and this bill will make sure all
That's
code
correct.
sections track.
That's correct. Those favoring the bill are voting green. Those opposed are voting red. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 471. The ayes are 158, the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Rules Committee, Chairman Powell, for an announcement.
There will be a Rules Committee meeting in 341 at 12:45. That's 7 minutes from now.
Rules Committee is meeting at 12:45. What purpose does Chairman Rhodes rise?
To make a motion,
State your motion.
I move that House Bill 540 be moved from the Ways and Means Committee to the Insurance Committee. Both
Clerk will
chairmen are
read
in
the
agreement.
caption.
House Bill 540 by Representative Rhodes, the 120th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-118 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to housing tax credit for qualified projects and rules and regulations.
On the gentleman's motion that House Bill 540 be recommitted to the Insurance Committee, is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. What purpose does Chairman Fleming rise?
To serve notice of intent, Mr. Speaker.
State your notice.
Mr. Speaker, under Rule 143, I serve notice of intent to move for reconsideration of House Bill 447.
That was voted earlier today, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
That will come back on the calendar then under the motions for reconsideration tomorrow or Thursday morning. Chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The full Education Committee will meet in room 506 CLOB at 12:45 to hear Chairman Tanner's House Bill 32.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hatchett for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's see if I can get this right. The Majority Caucus will meet in room 403. Those that aren't on education and rules may go ahead and go and have some lunch, and we will meet after rules and is finished. Room 403, immediately upon adjournment.
There being no other announcements prior to the lunch, this House will be in recess, and Chair recognizes Representative Dickerson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Women's Caucus will meet in room 514 upon adjournment for lunch, and we have a speaker. Thank you so much.
This House will be in recess until 2 p.m.